The Phoebus Foundation is proud to present the exhibition Crazy About Dymphna here in the Nicoliste Church in Tallinn, where you will have the opportunity for the first time to see this Renaissance masterpiece after 4 years of extensive restoration and research.
It's a restoration project of a very famous altarpiece painted by Goossen Van der Weyden at the beginning of the 16th century, and with the iconography or the image of Saint Dymphna.
In the exhibition you will have the opportunity to see this masterpiece in close-up, to enjoy its vibrant colors and to see all its refined details. We not only tell you the story and history of this altarpiece, but also tell you what Dymphna meant to the people who commissioned it and what this saint means to the Belgium still today. Please come and enjoy the exhibition.
The story of Saint Dymphna reads like a modern-day fairy tale. It all starts in Ireland, where there is a young princess Dymphna who is about to get baptized, as you can see here, by her confessor Gerubednus. In the background on the panel you can see the deathbed of the mother of Dymphna. The king, Dymphna's father, is standing next to the deathbed. And here in this scene you can see the king is conspiring with his consultants about the gruesome future of Dymphna. He is besotted by his grief over his wife, and now he wants to marry his own daughter. And that's actually the synopsis of the whole story. Dymphna, of course, doesn't agree with the decision of her father, and she tries to leave Ireland, fleeing by boat to Antwerp in the Netherlands.
So this is actually one of my favorite panels, and it depicts the scene where Saint Dymphna is being asked by her father to marry her. During the restoration, we uncovered some very beautiful details here, especially if you look at the way this brocade fabric is painted. It really showed the viewer that this was a very rich and powerful king, and so with all these minute little dots he recreated the shimmer of gold that is so characteristic for this rich attire. This is a man of status, you know, he's the king of Ireland, and we can see that in his clothing. At the same time, Dymphna, as a princess, she also has beautiful attires, and she is dressed in pink, which represents the feminine and the soft. On this panel, you can also see that at the bottom side, there are the remains of painted scrolls in medieval letters, showing us that at some point all these scenes had verses that would explain the meaning of each panel. In the next scene, after the marriage proposal to Dymphna, Dymphna is taking off by boat and she's traveling to the Low Countries. And in the background you can see a beautiful cityscape. And this is actually the city of Antwerp, and we recognize some of the iconic buildings, like here in the front is a beautiful crane that was used by the merchants, for instance, for carrying the barrels that are here in the front of the image, and also the millstones that are placed at the back of the building here. And here at the front we have this lovely detail with the open and empty mussel shells, and that actually told that the people who looked at this scene, they knew like, oh, Dymphna is going over the sea because there are mussels in front of it. But actually what was the biggest discovery in this painting was the figure of a woman here in the background. She's not just any woman. We discovered that this is actually a portrait. The lady who is depicted here had her portrait painted on a very thin layer of tin leaf, and this is a very rare technique that we seldom see in paintings of the period. And this was a major discovery for us because it was also a technique used by the grandfather of this painter, who was very famous. He was Rogier Van der Weyden. So again, that gives us an insight in how traditions went from grandfather to grandson. And this is of course very beautiful in the context of Saint Dymphna.
This scene takes place many years later in the story of Saint Dymphna, after her arrival in the woods of the Champagne region. Here you can see 2 guards going to a local inn near Westerlo, that's also close to the Abbey of Tongerlo. And the local inn lady recognizes that they are paying in foreign coins, the same coins that Dymphna had with her, and now the guards know Dymphna is very close to them. So they are searching for her, and in the background you can see them finding the hideouts of Saint Dymphna.
Inside, the altarpiece is full of beautiful colors and fine details, but the outside of this altarpiece was much more austere, as you can see here on one of the panels from the outside of the altarpiece, and they're all done in quite mute tones, which we call grisaille. And in this scene you can see Saint Lucy on the right, and on the left we have Saint Dymphna again. Now we can recognize them very easily because of their attributes. We recognize Lucy from the sword that is sticking through her neck, and we also see that Dymphna is carrying a sword because eventually she would be decapitated by her father. Another of her attributes is this really funny devil that is at her feet, and that represents the wickedness.
This is the last scene of the altarpiece painted by Goossen Van der Weyden, where you can see that the local townspeople of Geel are bringing back the grave or the sarcophagus of Saint Dymphna to the Dymphna church. After the death of Saint Dymphna and Gerre, people visited their grave and came to worship their remains, and this became very, very important for the local community of Geel, because Geel became a pilgrimage site, and the bodies and the sarcophagus were venerated, and people visited Geel to be cured from diseases. In the beginning it was various diseases, but through the 13th, 14th and 15th century, more and more people came to be cured for mental illnesses.
In the last panel we see the abbot who commissioned this monumental altarpiece, and this is Abbot Anton Schroten, who was in charge of the mighty Abbey of Tongerlo. And he was a truly Renaissance abbot because he commissioned beautiful altarpieces, stained glass windows, finely illuminated books, and he also had his complete monastery refurbished into the latest fashion. And probably when he became an abbot, one of the first things he did was commissioning this altarpiece, which tells you how significant Saint Dymphna was for him personally.
In this part of the exhibition, we decided to focus on the restoration, conservation and creation process of the Saint Dymphna altarpiece. Because this is not an easy subject, we decided to portray it with a fictive conversation between the patron, on the left, Anton Schroten, and on the right, Goossen Van der Weyden. And as you can see in the center, through digital animation, the painting will vary and it will change, like the creation process it was.
When we started the restoration of the Dymphna altarpiece, we stabilized some of the paint that was coming off of the panels. But we also invested a lot of time in removing old and dirty layers of varnish that obscured the true quality of this magnificent altarpiece. We took many years to very painstakingly remove these later layers and also discolored layers of overpaint. After we had uncovered the true quality of these panels, we tried to integrate some of the losses that became apparent. Our treatment focused itself on the colorful inside of the altarpiece. As you can see, the panels from the outside, the grisailles, were actually too damaged to recover more details from. Because of the enormous size of this project, it took us really a long time to be able to finish all the panels at the same level of quality, and therefore it was really useful that we have this large team of conservators to work together and to share also our expertise in this very complex treatment. After 4 years of intense restoration, we are really proud and happy with the result, and I hope many people in Tallinn will take the opportunity to come and look at our work and also at the beauty of these amazing artworks.
In the Middle Ages, pilgrims visited Geel to be cured of mental illnesses. There they had to undergo different cults and rites to be cured, mostly things like praying or an exorcism or taking part in a procession. And this all took place in and around the Saint Dymphna church. Because it was so popular, this curing of the mental ill, the church soon became too small, and the people or the pilgrims were kept in the families and in the local homes of the people of Geel. This is actually the very start of something that we now know as foster care, of family care in the city of Geel. And it's of great importance because it shows a kind of psychiatric assistance that is very uncommon in whole of the world and is unique to the city of Geel. Personally, this is one of my favorite portraits from the whole series of the exhibition. Here you see Jeanne, who is an elderly lady who takes care of two mentally ill patients who are living at her home. And it's very interesting to see that they are living at her home for the last 25 years. She took care of them, but at this moment she is getting older and they are taking care of her. So the whole idea of family care, the whole inclusion model in Geel has took on greater proportions in this beautiful story. The whole idea of family care or foster care didn't limit itself to Geel, of course. This is an example where you have an American psychiatrist who traveled to Geel, got inspired by the whole inclusion model of Geel and took it to New York, where she used it to set up housing for homeless people in the poor areas of the city. The goal of this exhibition is to show the world that Saint Dymphna still lives on today. We're not only talking about the restoration of an altarpiece of over 500 years old, but we're talking about a legacy put forward by the veneration of a saint and still is of great importance of the people in Geel. She lives on in the minds and the hearts of new generations.